I didn't mean for it to sound like a line. It just slipped out, halfway between a joke and a truth I didn't want to admit. She didn't even laugh, just gave me that small, knowing look, like she'd already filed the words away for later. That was her way. Always listening, even when she pretended she wasn't. Most mornings started the same. The office smelled faintly of burnt coffee and printer toner, the kind of smell that lingers no matter how many windows you crack open. I'd get in early, partly to avoid traffic, partly because I didn't know what else to do with myself at 7 a.m. when everyone else my age was still asleep or nursing hangovers. I'd sit at my desk, headphones in but no music playing, pretending I had focus when all I really had was silence. She'd arrive a little later, heels soft against the linoleum. Always with a thermos in hand, stainless steel, dented near the bottom like it had survived years of mornings. I noticed it before I noticed her. That, and the way she set everything down in the same order: bag, jacket, then glasses she only wore for reading. I don't know why that steadiness mattered to me, but it did. Our first conversations weren't really conversations. Just nods, half smiles, the kind of office small talk that doesn't stick. Until one day, she remembered how I take my coffee, black, 2 sugars. She passed my desk and said, "Yours is ready in the break room." Like it was nothing. Like she hadn't been paying attention for weeks. After that, I started watching her more closely. Not in the obvious way. Just noticing. How she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear before leaning over a file. How her hands lingered a second too long on the edge of the desk, like she needed to feel something solid. I told myself it was harmless. Observation. Curiosity. But then there were the pauses. The almost questions she'd leave hanging. "Busy weekend?" she asked once. "Not really," I said. And I could have asked her the same. I could have kept the thread alive. But I didn't. I watched her fold the corner of a memo instead, neat little triangles that kept her hands busy. Loneliness doesn't announce itself. It's in the way I scrolled through my phone at night, thumb hovering over old chats I never sent replies to. In the way I stared too long at ceiling cracks, pretending I was thinking about work when really I was just stuck. She was older. Mid-40s, maybe? I never asked. But there was something about the way she carried herself, like she'd already lived through storms I couldn't name, that made me both want to know her and stay away. Respect and pull, all tangled up. That morning, the one with the line, we were the only 2 left in the office. Everyone else had cleared out early for some happy hour. I was at my desk, pretending to type, when she stopped by with a folder. "Don't stay too late," she said. "I won't." She tilted her head, waiting, and I should have just let it end there. But I didn't. "Work is work," she added. And I said it without thinking. "But hearts still beat at work." She didn't answer right away. Just placed the folder down, her hand brushing the desk like she was steadying herself. Then she smiled, not wide, not obvious. Just enough to make me wonder if I'd crossed a line I didn't know existed. Later that night, as I shut down my computer, my phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. "Next time, say that again when you mean it." I stared at the screen longer than I should have, thumb hovering, not typing a thing. The message sat on my phone all weekend. I didn't reply. I told myself it was probably a mistake, a wrong number. But I kept unlocking my screen just to see the words again. "Next time, say that again when you mean it." By Monday, I had half convinced myself she wouldn't mention it. That's what I wanted, until she walked past my desk, set her thermos down, and said, "You didn't answer." I looked up. Her tone wasn't sharp, just casual, like she was testing how much space the words could take up between us. "I didn't know if it was really you," I admitted. Her lips pressed together, almost a smile. "Almost not." "Who else would it be?" she said, pouring tea into a chipped office mug. She always carried her own tea bags, like the cheap ones in the break room weren't worth the trouble. I nodded, but my stomach tightened. It felt like stepping onto a ledge I hadn't realized I'd been climbing toward. Later that afternoon, she lingered by my desk while I fought with the printer. Paper jammed halfway through, toner smudged on my hand. Here, she said, kneeling down to help, fingers brushing mine as she tugged at the tray. The machine groaned, and for a second we were both bent over, too close. Her sleeve grazed my arm. I pulled back first. You always this stubborn with machines? She asked. Machines, people. I shrugged. Mostly myself. She laughed softly, just once, like the sound surprised her. And then, quieter. That doesn't go away, you know. You just get better at hiding it. It was the first time she'd said something that felt like it belonged to her, not the boss, not the careful professional. A shard of honesty slipped into the room. I wanted to ask her what she meant, who she was hiding from. Instead, I said nothing, and we let the printer win. That night, I imagined her kitchen. Not in detail, just outlines. A kettle left to cool, a chair pulled close to a window, maybe a book open but unread. The loneliness I pictured looked a lot like my own. The risk of it all pressed harder on me the next day. She was my boss. She was older. I didn't even know if she was married, divorced, anything. There was too much I didn't know, and too much I wanted to. Near closing time, she stopped by my desk again. You're staying late? Trying to look busy. You don't need to try so hard. The silence stretched. She tapped her fingers against the folder she carried, then, almost as an afterthought, placed a wrapped biscuit on my desk. Don't skip dinner, she said. It was nothing. A small gesture. But when her hand lingered a second too long on the desk, I felt it, like the weight of the whole weekend's silence pressed into a single moment. And just before she walked away, she glanced back, eyes catching mine. A look that said we're both hiding, aren't we? The biscuit wrapper stayed in my drawer for a week. I don't know why I kept it. Maybe because it was proof the moment had happened, small, nothing, but mine. We'd fallen into a rhythm after that. Quiet exchanges at the copier. A mug of tea left by my desk without a word. Her watching me more than she meant to, then looking away fast. It felt like the ground beneath us was shifting, though no one else seemed to notice. Until someone did. It was Thursday. I was leaning against the break room counter, sipping coffee gone cold, when Mark from accounting walked in. He nodded toward her office. She seems different lately. Not in a bad way. Just lighter. You know? He chuckled. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. I nearly choked. Me? Relax, kid. Just saying she doesn't look like she's carrying the world anymore. He left before I could answer, but the words stayed, heavy. Different. Lighter. Because of me? The thought pressed against my ribs, both thrilling and dangerous. That evening, she asked me to help carry a box of files to her car. Simple enough. But walking beside her down the dim hallway, I noticed her hand brush against the folder's edge, then retreat, like she was about to reach for something else, and thought better of it. At the car, she fumbled with her keys. These things never fit right, she muttered, though it was the same lock she'd used for years. Her voice wavered, just slightly. I held the box while she unlocked the door. She looked up then, close enough that I could see the faint lines around her eyes, the ones that deepened when she smiled. For a second, the air felt charged, almost fragile. You're quiet tonight, she said. So are you. That's unusual for me. It's noticeable. Her laugh was soft, but it died quickly. She leaned against the car, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. I wanted to tell her everything, how I replayed her words at night, how my phone felt heavier when her name didn't appear on it. But instead, I shifted the box in my arms. And then headlights swept across the lot. Another employee pulling in. The moment snapped. She straightened, her boss mask sliding back into place. Thanks for the help, she said, voice even again. She reached to take the box, and when her fingers touched mine, either of us moved for a beat too long. I let go first. She didn't. Not right away. When she finally took it, her eyes held mine for just a second longer than they should have. A pause so full it felt like words lived inside it. If no one had been there. If the lot had stayed dark. Maybe. But she turned then, placing the box in the trunk. "See you tomorrow," she said like nothing had happened. And I drove home with the echo of her almost touch burning all the way up my arm. It was raining when she asked if I'd walk her to the station. Not heavy, just a steady drizzle that blurred the edges of things. She held her umbrella low, the handle brushing against my shoulder as we walked. We didn't speak for a while. Just the sound of our steps against wet pavement, the occasional splash of a passing car. "You didn't take your break today," she said finally. "Didn't feel like it? Or didn't want to?" Her tone was light, but the question wasn't. I shoved my hands deeper into my pockets. "Sometimes it feels like if I stop moving, everything catches up." She gave the smallest nod. "I know what that's like." We stopped at a red light. The rain dotted her sleeve, darker spots spreading like ink. I wanted to brush them off, as if that would help. Instead, I watched her grip tighten on the umbrella. "I wasn't supposed to notice you," she said suddenly. Not looking at me. Just at the crosswalk. "But I did. And now it feels like I can't unnotice." Her voice cracked slightly on the last word, but she covered it with a breath. I swallowed hard. "You make it sound like a problem. Isn't it?" She glanced at me then, quick, searching. "You're young." She stopped herself, shook her head. "It's not supposed to matter, but it does." The light changed. We crossed in silence, both of us staring at the ground. At the station steps, we paused under the overhang. People hurried past us, umbrellas dripping, shoes squeaking. The world moved too quickly around us, while we stayed still. I should have said something easy. A joke. A goodbye. But instead, "I don't want you to stop noticing." Her eyes lifted, sharp, startled. Then softer. Like I'd said something she'd been waiting for, even if she didn't want to hear it. The crowd thinned. The sound of rain was louder now, almost private. She leaned against the railing, arms folded, and for a moment she let the mask slip. "You think it's simple," she whispered. "But it's not. I've already crossed lines I swore I wouldn't. And I don't know if I regret it, or if I'd do it again tomorrow." Her hand brushed her temple, restless, then dropped. I caught the faintest tremor in her fingers. I stepped closer without meaning to, close enough that the space between us felt charged. My chest tight, words hovering. "I keep thinking about that night," I admitted. "The message. The box in the parking lot. Every second feels like—" I stopped, because the rest was too much. Her gaze locked on mine, unflinching now. The kind of look that dared me to finish. The train pulled in, loud brakes cutting the moment apart. She didn't move. Neither did I. And for one suspended breath, I thought she might let me kiss her. Instead, she asked quietly, "If we start, how do we stop?" The Monday after the station, she wasn't there. Her office light stayed off all morning, blinds drawn. No thermos on her desk, no heels in the hallway. At first, I told myself it was nothing. Everyone takes a sick day. But then Tuesday came, and still, nothing. By Wednesday, the silence felt deliberate. I kept catching myself glancing at her door, pretending to stretch, pretending to check the copier. My chest tightened each time I saw only the empty chair, the neat stack of untouched folders. When she finally returned Thursday, something was different. Not obvious. She moved through the office like she always had, organized, brisk, polite. But her eyes avoided mine. No small nods, no dropped biscuit, no lingering questions. It was like we'd been rewound. At lunch, I passed the break room and overheard her speaking quietly to someone on the phone. Her tone was low, tired. "Yes, I know. He'll be back this weekend." "No, I don't mind. It's only for a few days." I froze in the hallway. I shouldn't have listened, but I couldn't move. He. The word hit like cold water. An ex? A husband? A son? Whoever it was, the way she said it carried a weight I hadn't accounted for. That afternoon, She finally looked at me, but only to ask about a file. Her voice was cool, professional. Like the station never happened. I wanted to shake it out of her. Ask what changed, ask why the silence felt heavier now than before we'd said anything at all. Instead, I nodded, mumbled, "I'll take care of it," and carried the file back to my desk like it was something fragile. The whiplash wore on me. Nights blurred into screens I didn't scroll, messages I typed and deleted. "Are you okay? Did I do something? Should I back off?" Each draft stayed unsent. Friday evening, I stayed late again, half hoping she'd appear at my desk like before. She didn't. Her door stayed closed, light dimmed early. When I finally packed up, the hallway was empty, just the hum of fluorescent bulbs. I stood outside her office door longer than I should have, hand half raised. I could have knocked. I didn't. Walking to the elevator, I felt it hit me. Not heartbreak. Something quieter, sharper. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence. The elevator doors closed, and I stared at my own reflection in the brushed steel. My phone buzzed once in my pocket. A notification, not a message. Still, my chest leapt before the truth sank in. Her name wasn't there. And my reply to her silence remained unsent. It was late when I finally saw her again, not in the office, but outside, fumbling with her keys at the building's side door. I'd just come back from the store, plastic bag cutting into my hand, the weight of milk and bread swaying with each step. She turned when she heard me. For a second, either of us spoke. Just the sound of keys jangling, my bag rustling. "You're still up," she said, voice softer than it had been all week. "Couldn't sleep." She nodded, eyes flicking toward the bag. "Domestic." "Trying to be." The joke didn't quite land, but it loosened the air between us. She sighed, finally sliding the right key into the lock. But instead of pushing through, she leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, head tilted like she was weighing something heavy. "I thought pulling back would make it easier," she said. The words came out rushed, like they'd been waiting at the edge of her throat all week. "It didn't." My hand tightened around the bag. "For me either." She looked at me then, really looked. The exhaustion in her face, the quiet fight in her eyes. "You don't know what you're asking for," she said. "I've lived too much. You've lived too little. That gap, it's bigger than you think." I swallowed. "I'm not asking for forever. I just don't want this to be nothing." The silence that followed was sharper than any argument. The hum of the streetlight buzzed above us. A moth tapped against the glass. Finally, she stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "You scare me." "Why?" "Because you make me want to forget all the reasons I should know better." I set the bag down at my feet, hands free now. I didn't reach for her. I just stood there, letting her see how much her words had landed. "You think I'm strong," she said, her laugh shaky. "But I'm not. I'm tired. I'm messy. I've made mistakes I don't want to repeat." "Then don't repeat them," I said. "Make new ones. With me." Her breath caught. I thought she might turn away. Instead, she pressed her forehead into her hand, laughing once, broken and quiet. "You shouldn't know how to say things like that," she murmured. "I didn't rehearse it. It's just true." When she finally dropped her hand, her eyes met mine. She didn't smile, not fully. But she stepped forward, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her coat brush my arm. Her hand hovered, then rested gently against my sleeve. A simple touch, almost nothing. But it grounded us both. "Okay," she whispered. Just that. And in the stillness of the doorway, with the streetlight buzzing above and the groceries forgotten at my feet, it felt like the most human thing in the world. Weeks passed. The air shifted, but not in a way anyone else would notice. To the office, she was still the efficient, composed boss. To me, she was the woman who left a biscuit on my desk without a word, who kept her thermos dented and loyal, who now sometimes let her gaze linger just a little longer than before. We never announced anything. There was nothing to announce. No declarations, no sudden change in titles or routines. But a quiet understanding settled in, steady as the hum of the printer or the drip of the coffee pot. Most mornings, she arrived at 8:47 on the dot. She still carried her thermos. But now, once or twice a week, she'd bring an extra mug, steam rising from inside, and place it on my desk with the simplest of gestures. "Black," she'd say. "2 sugars." I pretended not to smile as much as I wanted to. She pretended not to notice. Sometimes we shared silence in her office, the kind where she worked through a stack of papers while I sat across from her, pretending to read. The sound of her pen scratching, the faint sigh when she stretched her neck, it felt like intimacy in disguise. One evening, after a long day, we found ourselves on the same bench outside the building. Rain had left the wood damp, but neither of us cared. She leaned back, coat draped across her lap, while I watched the steam curl from her thermos. "You still thinking about stopping?" I asked. She gave a tired smile. "Every day. And then I look at you and it feels less like a mistake. More like a choice." The words weren't romantic. They were better. They were honest. I thought about the first time I noticed her hands, the way they lingered too long on a desk, on a folder, almost on mine. Now, when her hand brushed my sleeve, she didn't pull away. She let it rest there, light but sure. Life didn't get perfect. Some days she pulled back, some days I second-guessed. But then there were the quiet anchors, the 8:47 arrivals, the way she remembered to keep tea bags tucked into her bag, the way I always had an extra sugar packet ready. It wasn't fireworks. It was steady. It was real. One Friday evening, as we locked up, she glanced at me and said, "Funny how work is just work, until it isn't." I laughed under my breath, the words catching in my chest. Yeah. Hearts still beat at work. She shook her head, smiling at the ground, but her hand found mine as we walked out together. No one to see. No need to explain. And in that small, ordinary moment I knew this was enough. Sparkle's engagement close. Did this story stay with you? What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next?